नमस्कार सर.
Hello. Hello.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening, friends.
Good
My name is
evening.
Dr. My name is Dr. Nakhat Shaheen, and I am the program coordinator of MAHI. I welcome all the learners of MAHI first semester and our resource person, Dr. Debaraj Swain, sir. So today we will focus on another block of MHI 1, Ancient and Medieval Societies, the Block 2, Bronze Age Civilization. Now I am requesting our resource person to kindly take over the class. So please start the class. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Am I audible? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
So, as told by madam, this is the second block that is of MHI 1, and here we will discuss the Bronze Age civilization, and our book starts with Unit 6, Cultural and Natural Settings of Early Civilization. So, before going to the theme, let me clarify what is Bronze Age civilization. In our last block, we have covered what is the Old Stone Age, New Stone Age, that is a Paleolithic period, Mesolithic period, and Neolithic period, how art of cultivation took place and how the hunters and gatherers managed to eke out their living. And here is Bronze Age. Bronze is a combination of or an alloy of two metals. That one is copper and other is tin. So this alloy is known as, when mixed in proper proportion, it is called bronze. And why the Bronze Age? Because the people used to bronze weapons and bronze utensils in their day-to-day life. And here, all over the world, wherever there were civilizations, all civilizations experienced this Bronze Age, and we have the major civilizations of the world that flourished on the bank of big rivers, mighty rivers. And one is the Egyptian civilization, which developed on the bank of River Nile. River Nile, sometimes it is called the longest river, and according to historian Herodotus, Egypt is the gift of Nile. So, what considerations prompted him to declare such a statement, that is, Egypt is the gift of Nile? That means this is the lifeline of Egypt. The river is lifeline of Egypt, coming from the mountains of Ethiopia. It crosses or traverses a long distance, having 2 to 3 cataracts. Cataracts means when a river is flowing, so at some places there is hard rock, and there the river falls down, creating waterfalls. So there are almost 3 cataracts during the course of flow of river Nile, and one Aswan Dam has been built at the first cataract. So here, what was the primary subsistence of the people. Primary subsistence of the people was agriculture, because then agriculture was the main subsistence after hunting and gathering. So, what conditions were salutary for agricultural life? Every year, flood visited River Nile, and when the flood comes or used to come, it inundated the banks of or the both either side or both side of River Nile. And when the flood water receded, it left behind a thin layer of silt, which is rich in mineral resources, and that fertile land or that makes land fertile and very suitable for cultivation. So that was the main reason for cultivation being adopted by the people living on the bank of River Nile, that is Egypt, and the crops like uh, wheat, barley, beans, gram, and others other items were being grown. And but for the Nile, Egypt would have been turned into a desert. So at delta means the point at which the river meets with the sea. Delta, there is a pastoral land, and people used to keep herds of cattle and even duck and geese for a for a supplement of their subsistence. And there we find that the old papyrus, one plant used to grow, that is papyrus plant, and from papyrus plant they prepared a kind of a paper. So the plant was cut, and thin strips of plant from the stem were uh, prepared, and they were pressed one by placing one after another and then dried in the sun, and this acted as a paper. This acted as a sort of paper, that is papyrus paper. So the entire history of Egypt, the historical political history coming under the Bronze Age, can be divided into three periods. That is Old Stone Age, sorry, Old Stone Age. That is the Old Kingdom, Middle Kingdom, and the New Kingdom. Old Kingdom, which started from 2700 BC to 2160 BC, it's called Old Kingdom, and it is marked by the construction of pyramids. Pyramids, the huge rock monument, and several pyramids, numerous pyramids were built during this period, and that is why the period is known as the Age of Pyramid. And the highest pyramid that is was built for Pharaoh Khufu. Pharaoh means the official name of Egyptian king was called Pharaoh. Then came Kingdom. Middle Kingdom was marked by feudal, or it was called feudal age. That means no big empires were there, no big kingdoms were there, or large kingdoms were there, and it lasted from 1980 to 1780 BC, very small period. and it was a feudal type of government or feudal system was prevalent during this period. Then came the new kingdom from 1780 onwards up to the end of the Bronze Age, that is 1000 BC. So during this period, it was a period of a large kingdom. Big kingdom came into being, and after that, Egypt was invaded by foreigners or barbarians or migrants with different stronger weapons, and then Bronze Age came to an end. So this was the case of Egypt, where we have the three types of kingdom: old kingdom, middle kingdom, and new kingdom. And construction of pyramids marks the old kingdom. Feudal system of government marked the middle kingdom, and large empires mark the last kingdom or new kingdom. Role of Pharaoh, the king, role of Pharaoh, and the um, pyramid. There are numerous pyramids. Those are called tombs, in other words, because pyramids were not built for gods. They were built to house the relics or the mummy of pharaoh or influential people. Mummy means the preserved dead body. So it was not built for gods but for a dead body, and that is why all the pyramids were tombs. Like your Taj Mahal, our Taj Mahal, the one of the magnificent monuments of the world, included in the so many wonders of the world, is a tomb, because it is not, or it was built to commemorate the demise of Mumtaz Mahal. So all pyramids were tombs. And then we have another civilization, that is the Mesopotamian civilization. Mesopotamia, the present Iran and Iraq and adjoining places, is known as the Mesopotamian sites where this ancient civilization flourished. And here there are two rivers, that is Euphrates and Tigris. And here in Mesopotamia, three major civilizations grew up in or flourished in quick succession. Three measures, maybe more, but we have to consider or take into account only three major civilizations. One is the Sumerian civilization, other is then Babylonian civilization, then Assyrian civilization. This civilization, which developed towards the mouth of the rivers, was known as the Sumerian civilization, of first among the three to develop in Mesopotamia. So three civilizations together are known as Mesopotamian civilization. Sumeria means Sumer was a was a place, and according to that name place, the civilization has been named. The Sumerian civilization means black-headed people. Sumerian means black-headed people. So then we have Babylonian civilization. it is so named because its capital was Babylon, and according to that, the civilization has been named. Here in Babylonia, that is towards the northern part of Mesopotamia, that is called not northern part, but the middle part, that is called Babylonia. And here we have one Hammurabi. Hammurabi means a law giver, and that law, he was the first to give certain laws, and and the laws were the laws covered a wide range of subjects like property, contract, and and your marriage, then and so many things. So this was the first written law of the world, and in spite of the fact that the laws covered a wide range of subjects, yet it suffered from one big defect. That is, it was based on the principle of an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. That is, a person who committed a certain type of offense that caused harm to another person, the person causing the harm was required to suffer from the same harm. In other words, if the house of a person collapsed, leading to the death of the owner of the house, the law of Hammurabi says that the mason or the person who built the house, who had built the house, his son was to be put to death. Very harsh law indeed. So it is called a tooth for a tooth and an eye for an eye. Then we have Assyrian civilization. Assyrian civilization, it is a rocky region, northern part of Mesopotamia. It is a rocky region, and it flourished from 900 to 600 BC. So Assyrians were named so according to their tribal god Assur. From Assur came the name of their civilization and also the name of their tribe. So these three civilizations together are known as Mesopotamian civilization. Then coming to the Harapan civilization, you all are acquainted with this Indian civilization. Sometimes it is also called Indus Valley civilization, and people or many historians prefer it to call Harappan culture also because there is a subtle difference between culture and civilization, and both can be used interchangeably. So, as regards to Harappan culture, we know that it is one of the prehistoric civilization, and it comes under the Chalcolithic period, or you can say the Bronze period. And it has the speciality that it's an urban civilization and having all the amenities of civic life. And there was a town planning. The streets were straight and intersected each other at right angles. There were drainage system and covered drainage system, and every house had a was so built that it was connected with the the individual house drain was connected with the street drain, which finally uh, led to led to the river. And there were provisions of street lamps and a public well. That means sense, civic sense, and your sense of sanitary sense was certainly high among the people. And the houses were built of burnt mud bricks, and we have evidences are now they look as if they were built a few years back. There is a great bath of Manjadar, and there's a great granary at Harappa, and different sites have been discovered, like your local in Gujarat, Kalibangan in Rajasthan, Chandaro in Sindh, and Alamgirpur in UP, Kita, Bhagwanpur, Manpur, and Sartughai. Then your Rangpur. So there are hundreds of sites of Harapan culture which have been brought to light, and the first discovery was took place in 1921 by Dharam Sahni and R.D. Banerjee, and the scholarship of the world scholarship was startled to know that such an urban and flourishing civilization existed in India prior to that of the Aryans. And now we know that India could claim to be ranked among the ancient civilizations of the world, like the Egyptian civilization, Mesopotamian, Chinese civilization. So next to Harapan civilization, we have another old civilization, that is Chinese civilization. And Chinese civilization, particularly coming under the Bronze Age, was the Shang dynasty that developed in China. Uh, we we know that so during this period, in yes, the river in China was Huangpu. Huangpu, which was called the sorrow of China. There, uh, not Huangpu, that is Yangtze Kiang. So on the bank of Yangtze Kiang, the civilization grew up, and gradually the Chinese people achieved excellence in different walks of life. We are not concerned with what were their achievements, but so many things they achieved, like gunpowder and the mariner's compass. The writing we will discuss at a later unit, and, and so many other things. Paper, ink, pen. So the world is indebted to Chinese civilization in many ways. Then use of copper and bronze, definitely people depending on copper and tin, they prepared bronze weapons and bronze utensils, and for other household items. Because they didn't know by that time the use of iron. How to prepare iron or use of iron was not known to them. And that is why they remain confined or they remain satisfied with the use of copper and bronze, copper and tin, and their alloy, the bronze. Then comes urbanization. Urbanization is possible, it's a process. Urbanization is a process or it is possible only when the land is capable of supporting a large number of people. When urbanization takes place, people from countryside they make exodus to a town. That means urban living attracts the attention of people from rural areas. In that case, in that case, we we say the process is urbanization. And as you know that during the Bronze Age period, urbanization also took place. We have evidences that how the Harapan civilization, it was an urban civilization because people lived in urban areas and all their features were urban features like your at Manjidar or Harappa and other places. We have traces of urban life there. Urbanism certainly was a feature of or of Bronze Age. China, if you say China, that we have archaeology, urban archaeology in China, we have the Great Wall or big buildings by unskilled prisoners of war. China uh, constructed the Great Wall of China, but the wall was constructed by forced labor. It was built by using or by deploying the prisoners of war. That is why the builder Xi Huangdi became unpopular because of his policy of oppression by by forcing or by forcing the people to contribute forced labor, by compelling the people to contribute forced labor. So that is why he became unpopular, even if he, after having achieved such a feat, such a great achievement, that is construction of this wall. So these are the various features of urbanism, and we have the role of trade. Trade also is of immense help in the process of urbanism. Trade means the people of different areas engaged in so many crafts and arts, they require raw materials for the preparation of their art and craft. For example, there were the artisan class in every society, so they needed raw materials to to produce their work, and the raw materials were not available in their own locality. Therefore, they were required to bring those raw materials from distant places. And when distant materials are to be collected from distant places, then it entails a trade. Certainly, there would be trade either the in barter system or by giving gold or something or the silver or gold like that. So trade had to be resorted to, and when the trade takes place, then there must be towns and centers of trade and urbanization. Urbanism was a natural sequel to this trade and commerce because people have to come to a central place, a centrally located place where they gathered, assembled, and conducted the trade. So, role of trade cannot be underrated or cannot be ignored so far as urbanism is concerned. Then we have yes, one we have communication, writing, and artistic expression. Writing and artistic expression. So again, we will go to the Egyptian civilization, and there in Egypt, their writing started with the picture writing, and then they developed symbols representing sound. Their writing is known as hieroglyphics or sacred writing. Why it is called sacred writing? Now, because the priests used to write their books by using the script. That is why it is known as sacred writing. So the Egyptians used to hieroglyphics. Then coming to the Sumerians, Babylonians, and even Assyrians, they used to cuneiform writing. They used to a sort of writing that is known as cuneiform writing. The word cuneiform comes from cunus, which means wedge. That is a triangular shaped wedge, and that is why the writing is known as cuneiform writing. The Sumerians developed cuneiform writing, and it was also adopted by these Babylonians and the Assyrians. As regards to the writing of Indus Valley civilization or Harapan culture, they used to have a peculiar writing which remains undeciphered even today. No philologist has been able to decipher the script of Harapan writing. Yet they developed a type of writing then for communication. And the day when the Harapan writing will be deciphered, we will be able to know a lot of things which is not known to us because we are unable to read what has been written on the seals on the seals or in form of inscriptions on the seals or on any objects or the statuettes and figurines. So we have to wait for those dates. Let us be sanguinary and let us be hopeful that someday the script will be deciphered and a lot of things so far hitherto unknown to the people of the world will come to light and maybe it may push the Indus Valley civilization to further antiquity. So that is the script of Indus people, and we have also the Chinese script. Chinese developed writing. It was both pictographic, then ideogram, then it also s- used to sound, and it was a very cumbersome writing. That means it initially the writing which Chinese developed was very cumbersome and very difficult, and it required a lengthy process to write even a small thing. However, in later years, it was simplified and writing was a bit easier in Chinese civilization. That means people used to convey their ideas, people used to communicate between one another through writing and also through orally or verbal communication and sometimes by communication sans words. That means what happens when a transition occurs from orality to the written world. From orality to the written world, people, when used to in conversation by producing sound, that is orality, they used to speak something to another. And when the transition takes place, means from orality to literacy, that means to writing, then what happens? Change in communication. That is, no language, sometimes no language was used to, and only symbols were used for communication. And um, as regards to the literature, they produced so many literature in every old ancient civilization. They have their own literature, and the best one is Epic of Gilgamesh, where the hero's dejection, it depicts the hero's dejection at having learned, uh, but soon forgot the secret of immortality. Immortality means a person who does not die. That is why called immortal. So he learned the trick of immortality but forgot it. And that is why the hero was in great grief, in great sorrow for having known and then forgetting the such a useful method that is uh, used to remain immortal. And sometimes there is communication sans words. Without words, many things can be communicated. Even in modern world, uh, we can communicate so many things without using sound, without using written words, and through body language. Body language means especially the hands and the and the chief role plays the eyes. Through eyes, we can communicate so many emotions, so many expressions through eyes. So communication can be made in various ways. And that is through oral communication, through written words, and words, sans communication, sans words through symbols, etc. Now coming to social structure. Social structure, that is a Bronze Age society, and we have to depend on certain evidences to reconstruct what was there in Bronze Society, because we were not there. We have to depend on the evidences. Without evidence, are we cannot reconstruct the history of the past, because without evidence, it is not history but something else. It may be a story, a tale, or like that, but not history. So, on the basis of Mesopotamian evidence, that is in Mesopotamia, we have certain evidences. That is, there are thousands of written tablets. Tablets means slates. When this slate was clay slates, when this slate was soft, then it was written on the soft clay. Then those were exposed to sunlight to make them hard. Those slates are known as tablets. And in Mesopotamia, we have thousands of such tablets that give us useful information on a wide range of subjects, and we have to depend on the evidence obtained from Mesopotamian sites regarding the reconstruction of the ancient society or Bronze Age society. Archaeological and settlement pattern also provide data. Archaeology, digging of remains, whatever remains we find after digging, that is scientific digging, not that someone will come and take out mud and make a big hole. That is not digging. It's scientific digging. There is a proper way how to dig, how to remove mud without causing damage the to the evidence. That is called scientific digging. So archaeology is a scientific digging to know about the remains, which may help us to convey or to reconstruct the history of ancient India. And then settlement pattern. Settlement pattern means people not didn't continue their settlement at a particular place. The settlement had to be moved because of the shifting of the course of rivers. The rivers used to change their course frequently. because of a flood or because of something else, mainly because of a flood. So when rivers changed their course, the old sites were free, and the area under intense cultivation today has not damaged because of the change of course of rivers. And we have so many Bronze Age sites which can provide us when when archeo when it will be dug out, when the remains will be unearthed, it will give us immense or it will throw a welcome light on the society or Bronze Age society. And in Bronze Age society, the economy had two sectors. One was communal and private, and second was state sector. Sectors controlled by the state. So first was peopled or manned by rural communities, and private property on land had not come into existence. Private property was not there, had not come into existence during the Bronze Age period. And we have no record to show that there were land registration. Registration, absence of land registrations also gives us the information that private property didn't exist. So state sector comprised the economies of temple and palace, the property of gods and kings. Economies of temples, the whatever wealth was in temple that belonged to God, and whatever wealth that was in palace that belonged to the kings. So, so state sector comprised of the economies of temple and palace. That is that wealth belonged to God and the king respectively. So there were also state workshops, and payment was made to workers in form of rations rather than wages. So how the state sectors worked, and whenever they required labor, and whoever worked there, he was paid through rations, not rather than wages. That means they are given in kind, not in cash. Ration workers were the major workforce. It were the ration workers who were the major workforce of a Bronze Age society. So far as the public sector or the state sector is concerned, in Egypt, society was also structured. In the different parts, society was structured. Recruitment to army was through descent. Through descent means hereditary. Through descent. And the ration payment was here. Ration payment was also prevalent, and hundreds of wooden and the fans of hoe carriers are found near the tomb. Hundreds of wooden and fans of hoe carriers are found near the tomb. Tomb Near the tomb, there were statuettes, small figurines, small figures are found near the tomb. They carry they carry hoe, and they depict the Ushabti or answerer who would respond to any calls made on the dead persons. Those who stood near the tomb as warriors, they were known as Usabti or answerer. That means they would respond to any calls made on the dead persons. Dead person, whatever question was asked to dead person, they are answerable to answer it. So that is why they are known as the answerer or Sabdi. Great Pyramid, we have the Great Pyramid at the greatest pyramid is located at Gize, and according to the records available there, the pyramid took 20 years, uh, 1 lakh to 1 lakh men. 1 lakh people worked for 20 years to construct that great pyramid. It was 481 uh, feet high, and its base area was 13 acres, and 2,30,000 huge block stones have been used, and each block weighing 2.5 tons. So imagine the grandeur, the magnificence, or the grandeur of this great pyramid, and what the engineering marvels might have been employed to raise such a voluminous, such massive stones the to a great height. So this speaks a volume for the marvelous engineering skill adopted by the ancient Egyptians. This is no doubt this is one of the wonders of the world, that such a pyramid which is located, which covers whose base area covers is equal to 13 acres of land, and where each block of stone uh, used weighs 2.5 tons, and it took 1 lakh men 20 years, and the total number of those block stones used was a whopping number of 2,30,000. A what a grandiose building or monument. So this speaks volume, or from this we can easily imagine what sort of engineering skill they might have adopted uh, to construct such a big pyramid. Then, as regards to China, city wall made of hundreds of layers of beaten down mud. It was made of beaten down mud, and that becomes very hard, cannot be breakable, cannot be broken easily, and that protected the Chengchu in northern China. That is, it took 10,000 men for 18 years time to complete the construction. And perhaps, as already told you, at the cost of repetition, I would like to reiterate that the king Shi Huangti used to the forced labor for the construction of this wall, that is, prisoners of war or the prisoners were forced to work for the construction of such wall. And as regards the Harappa civilization, uh, the public buildings were constructed at state initiative. Public buildings, there were three types of buildings. One was public buildings, second was larger buildings, and third was dwelling houses. So dwelling houses were meant for common people, as you know, and larger buildings are maybe those buildings belong to the richer section of people, but all the big buildings, uh, public buildings, were the state result of a state initiative, like your great bath at Mohenjo-daro and your great granary at Harappa, and so many the citadel part where public buildings were located. So all these great things were which required um, a, a, a greater working force. Those were the result of a state initiative, and the planning was excellent, and even can rival the modern towns, modern cities of this 21st century. So how? Now, you see that Barampur is a city that is unplanned city. Kotak is a unplanned city. Bhubaneswar is a planned city, and so many places in India are not planned. Think of that in uh, almost 5,000 years before. People had such a sense of civilized sense of living, a sense, civic sense of people, which is really commendable in those days, because when we claim to be living in postmodern society, we are still lacking in lacking the Indus people in so many respects. So think of their civic sense, their sense of sanitary sense, and other uh, urban qualities of the people of Harapan culture. So, so planning the planned city, we have already discussed. Here there were salaried officers. Not all officers, not all workers. Only workers were given their wages in kind, but officers were given their salary in that evening. They received cash. The institution of sacral kingship. Sacral kingship means a ritual that sanctioned, that purifies certain thing, that is sacral kingship, or in medieval period we say the divine right of kingship, where which required certain rituals like investiture, etc. So people perform rituals. Why do we perform rituals? People perform rituals in order to purify either themselves or a particular place. We perform rituals before embarking on an auspicious work, maybe the construction of a house, maybe the construction or setting up of some industries, like this. When we go to do some auspicious work, we perform rituals to, and these rituals were performed to predict what will happen or to propitiate a divine being, so that the evil spirits will be warded off, or the rituals would ward off the evil spirits, or to create abundance. If we, before cultivation, we perform rituals in the field, we expect that we are going to have a bumper crop in a particular year. So rituals are believed to have bestow blessings on us. And when a person moves from one stage of his social life to another, one stage of social life to another, when a person moves, for example, when a daughter is married off to become the wife of somebody else, ritual usually marks the transition. We perform a ritual through the marriage ceremony. The priest, officiating priest, pronounces certain spells, certain rituals, certain hymns in presence of relatives and other acquaintances. And here a new life begins, see, with the sanction, with the religious sanction, and with the consent of the people who gathered at the place, or the news goes right, and there is no there is no problem or no uh, social objection for the duo to live uh, together. Of course, today there is a different practice that the court has given permission to certain couples to have live together without being in wedlock. That is in modern term, which is called as live-in relationship. So we are not talking of that. We are talking of that when a transition takes place, a ritual is a must. A ritual is considered as sacrosanct, having a religious sanction to, or people expect a lot. People expect blessings through rituals. So multiple role people have to do multiple roles. That son role, nephew, husband, then father. So many roles a person has to play, and for every person, a particular behavior, particular symbols are necessary to mark his position. Suppose the village head, in a village, the village head or the sarpanch, when it comes to a meeting, the sarpanch looks a different man. Maybe with some symbol, maybe with a cap on his head to mark that whoever wears that cap is regarded as the sarpanch, or like this. See? So certain symbols and manners, etiquette are required to perform different roles. And here the it is also true in case of kings. When king, whoever becomes king, he has to wear a crown and he has to follow certain royal etiquette uh, and other manners. The term pharaoh comes from an Egyptian root word meaning great house. Pharaoh, the official title of Egyptian king Pharaoh, that is it's a Egyptian root too, and its meaning is a great house. He was regarded as someone nearer to God, an incarnation of Horus. Horus is a god, the falcon. And when a ruler died, it was said the falcon has flown to the horizon. Falcon got a পক্ষী. The falcon has flown to the horizon. When the pharaoh dies, it was believed that the falcon has flown to the horizon. The Shang rulers visited heavens and brought down prayers and songs of various rituals to the earth. It was believed, or the belief which was prevalent in and the Bronze Society of China, was that the Sang rulers, they visited heavens and brought down prayers and songs of various rituals to the earth. And in China, there was the ancestor worship. That means the ancestors could or had the power to convey the people about the future, and only king had the power to predict and contact with the ancestors. The ancestors would tell about the future only to the kings. The kings had the power, only the kings had the power to consult with the ancestors and to collect the information about the future happenings. And therefore, they claim to predict. And by 1200 to 1100 BC, Bronze Age was everywhere. Everywhere, Bronze Age was there, and natural. So now we are to going the last aspect of our book. That what was the reason or regency that led to the disappearance or decline of Bronze Age all over the world. And about 1000 BC, perhaps Bronze Age had come to an end, and plausible regency. Some scholars advance the cause, like the flood or natural disasters. So that is not accepted. That cannot be accepted in by any rational person, because in those days natural calamities or natural disasters were very common. The flood used to visit a river every year, so it was not that much big cause for the decline of the bronze society all over the world, because floods visited every year, and because of floods, the hinterland used to be um, fertile, which was salutary for agricultural works. So floods could not be an acceptable cause for the decline of bronze civilization, and, and because disasters were natural in every age. Even today, we face disasters. After the disaster, things resume, and and all other mm, um, people who are in difficulty or the difficult situation returns to normalcy. So advent of the age of iron may be a very potential factor for the decline of bronze age, because a lot of heat was required for smelting of bronze, or for the bronze metallurgy industry. A lot of heat, lot of those coal or charcoal was required for the bronze metallurgy in comparison to that of iron, and that is why probably is a bit convincing reason that the migrants came with iron weapons, and with iron weapons, they found it easier to compel the people wearing bronze weapons to uh, displace. So more than the um, natural disasters or Some say that the rivers changed their courses, bringing to an end to the some Indus civilization or any other civilization. Those are not so much convincing as the advent of the Iron Age, because iron was much stronger than the copper weapons or bronze weapons, and whoever came with iron weapons, they came out victorious in the event of a fight between the foreign migrants and the native people. So with this, I think the book is over. Uh, that is Bronze Age book block 2. MHI 1 block 2 is over. And if you are hearing right now, thank you all for giving me a patient hearing. Thank you, organizers, for me this chance to have a talk on this a very interesting chapter. Thank you all. With this, I come to my refrain. Thank you all once again. Nakhat, madam.